So yeah, the picture camera just a little bit lower.
Okay.
There we go. Okay.
Is my picture clear enough for you? Because you're always a pill about that.
I know. I'm always a what pill?
Pill, yeah, because it's good. I'm now. It's a good pill. It's a like a medicinal positive pill. Okay. But yeah,
Not a
actually,
negative. Not a
no, I did.
negative. Not a
I did.
negative pill.
No, not. And I
Oh,
did
okay.
that, and it even was actually it seemed to be a brighter picture on
Yeah,
myself.
we want to see your beautiful face, and so we can absorb all the wit and wisdom as you spew it out to us.
Let's not get crazy here. Okay, go for it.
All right, welcome to the Art and Hustle Gallery of Conversations. Welcome back here, Captain Schiavo. It is day, what is today? Today is June
Uh,
9th.
the June 9th, right?
June 9th, and we are on our 17th Hawaiian shirt. Tell us about this one.
Well, uh, this is another silk shirt, actually. And this is one of my, I have a couple of shirts, which they look like we were talking before. They look very similar, okay?
Mhm.
And they are, red backgrounds and different color flowers and leaves and things like that. Now,
Yeah.
this is one of the shirts that not only do I, because it's silk, I would wear it to dinner. It's also a shirt that I like to wear when I'm driving my red convertible around town, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's kind of it matches the car,
Yes.
And
It
then
matches your fiery personality.
well, that too. No, no argument there. Okay. Then I wear this. I don't know if you see this watch. This watch,
Is
it's
that
kind
your
of,
favorite watch?
well, it's kind of biggish. It's a big watch. Okay.
Hmm.
And I wear this on, it's a, like a, surfer divers kind of watch, right?
Yeah.
But if you
It
look
kind
at
of
it
looks like a nautical like watch.
yeah, it is. But you can go down, I don't know how many fathoms, I forget. But anyway, it's got a black band and it's got gold trim on the face and gold trim on the band because my convertible, okay, has it's a bright red. In fact, when Lexus was selling it, they called the color absolutely red. You will not get a redder
Mm.
car than this
Hmm.
car, okay?
Yeah.
So absolutely red, and then it had black leather seat, upholstery and gold trim on the
Hmm.
outside.
Hmm.
So between the
Oh,
shirt
so
and the watch,
you're
match,
matching your
yeah.
car.
I have to say this, Linda, support. I mean, I'm a little bit of a fashionista.
A
Okay.
little bit, a little bit. I mean, you like, the finer things in life.
Well,
I've
let me
come
just
to
tell you
learn.
this. When my wife met me,
Hmm.
okay, as a single guy, and also when I first started teaching too, we used to always have to wear jackets and ties.
Hmm.
And I would go one of my favorite posh men's stores in Huntington called Marsh's, Marsh apostrophe S, and a lot of local celebrities and athletes would go in there to buy their clothes, and I
Oh.
had my personal tailor and
Hmm.
the whole thing, and I'd get like really expensive Italian or Swiss shoes and
Yeah.
all kinds of great suits and sport coats, and I would go in with in fact, this is funny, the first real big fight we had as we were married. I was used to going in and spending whatever kind of money I wanted to spend on clothes. And I spent a lot of money. Back in
Yeah.
the time when if you said $1,000, that was a lot of money. So,
Yeah.
this is a great marriage story. So I went, I tell her, hey, look, I'm going to go to Marshall's to get, I need some more sport coats and maybe another suit. Because we used to go, I used to go out a lot. We used to go to
Hmm.
parties and
Hmm.
retirement parties and weddings and things like that. So we don't do that anymore, thank God. But anyway, um, the so I go to the store and I say, look, I need two new sport coats, pants to match. And then they'd say, okay, so the tailor said, okay, we picked out the suits, okay, the suits or the jackets. And then he'd say, okay, go over to the shirt counter where the women are, and they'll set you up with, because I said, well, I want two shirts for each jacket and two
Hmm.
shirts for each suit and ties to go with the shirts, right? So now, of course, it's starting to add up. Plus, I had to get pants to go with the sport coats. Came
You
with
had
the
to
suit.
get the whole thing.
Oh yeah, I got the whole kit and of course, I had moved in with her because I had rented out my bachelor condo. We were going to
Yeah.
get married shortly, and
Hmm.
I'm trying to think if I think we were already married. Okay,
Hmm.
so he said, "Well, look, I know you're not living where you used to live. You want to pick it up, or you wanted me to send it?" I said, "Send it. It was much easier to Oyster Bay." I said, "Fine." So it comes, and I got home. I got home from working early after, like let's say I would get home 3 o'clock in the afternoon. She was working. I forget where she was working, doctors, whatever. But she wouldn't get home till 6 o'clock. So
Hmm.
now I go into the bedroom and I've got all of my packages, boxes opened up, and all the clothes are spread out on the bed. Okay. So she finally comes home, and I tried them. How do you like this? How do you like that? Looks really good on you, so far and so on. And I was in great physical shape. My body was still together. So winds up, she then, I don't know whether I told her or whether she saw the bill.
Mm-hmm.
It was over $4,000. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, when she first met me, we were single and we'd go out together to a restaurant, or she said, let's go to this party for the, friends of my house. She'd always say, oh, he's Bill's a real peacock, you know? And
That's
like a lot of,
funny.
I'm like a male, because like a lot of male birds, the male birds are
Yeah, yeah.
they're real,
That's true. Yeah,
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 yeah, they're
that's
the real
true.
flashy, colorful ones, right?
Yeah, there's those fancy ones in the jungle that, do a whole show for the women.
Absolutely. In fact, it's even look, we have a couple of pairs of cardinals, okay? And the male cardinal is bright screaming red, okay?
Hmm.
And the female cardinal is kind of like more like a reddish brown,
Oh, really?
yeah, that are very different, they have a
Ah,
different
yeah.
color.
Hmm.
So anyway, well, that was our first big argument because
Hmm.
she couldn't believe I spent that much money, number one. And
Yeah,
then I did it without telling her I was going to be spending that much money because now, of course, we're married, okay? So
yeah.
in a marriage, I guess you know that, having been married, you don't spend that kind of money unless you let your partner know that you're spending that kind of money.
Mm.
So how shall I say? I was well informed
Well informed.
about what I shouldn't have done and could
Oh,
no longer do, okay?
oh,
And I was suitably humbled
oh.
as a new
Wow.
husband, okay?
I have a
But
question.
humbled.
Yeah. Oh,
Uh,
yeah. What's the question? Do you guys at that point did you guys agree on like a joint bank account or did you have separate ones?
that's a great question. We have, in the words of the old Paul Simon song, I forget which one,
Mhm.
we quote, married our fortunes together, unquote, in the following way.
Mhm.
Our incomes
Mhm.
would be put in a joint checking account to pay bills and a
Yeah.
joint savings account.
Mhm.
However, each of us came to the marriage table with other assets in
Okay.
our own names. Okay.
Okay.
So whatever she had in her name stayed in her name. Whatever was in my name, like my bachelor condo and my
Yeah.
savings accounts and my
IRAs and
yeah, my 301,
stocks.
my 401(b)s and everything,
401. Yeah.
they stayed in mine. And by the way, that still exists today. So in other
Mhm.
words, we have lots of assets and accounts in each in our own name.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we have, and then of course, obviously with our wills, she's a right now my major heir.
Mhm.
Okay. And I told her though, if she doesn't treat me better, if I get a couple of girlfriends, I will separate it out. She'll get less of my money. So but that's how we did it. And I think that here's the other thing, which this goes back to we did the podcast we did about money,
Mhm.
saving money and whatever, is the fact that this is where a lot of young people make a big mistake when they get
Mhm.
ready to get married. They don't do enough research and ask enough questions about their intended's financial status.
Yeah, they really don't because all they're worried about is really love and sex, probably.
Yeah, well, mostly sex because that's another story. Because I have real problems about the word love and the concept of love
Hmm.
because it's an abstraction.
Yeah.
So I used to tell students in my classes, if you're going to get married to somebody, yeah, yeah, love, schmove, forget that. Okay, love, you can't taste it, you can't touch it. No, it's an abstraction, like
Hmm.
hope, charity, things like that. Now, when you do something concrete, like in charity, and you give money or whatever to people, okay, that makes that abstraction concrete.
Mm.
And it's when people say, "Oh, well, I'm in love with this person," what makes it less abstract and more concrete would be the nature of the commitments and how one acts vis-a-vis those commitments. You
Hmm.
see?
Like marriage would be concrete.
Exactly. Well, yeah, yes. Well, marriage, yeah, but you see here's the other thing. You can't say we love each other and then be beating your wife to a pulp. That's
Yeah.
not that
Yeah.
does that makes the that doesn't make love concrete. It makes hate concrete. It makes frustration concrete. It makes
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of other things, concrete.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to my original premise was that you could marry a guy and he could be a total deadbeat, and all of a sudden he's got thousands of dollars worth of debt, and you hook up with him, and then you realize, oh my God, this guy's got real no money, really no background.
Yeah.
Okay, and then all of a sudden you're having to pay his way. Okay, now,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I just think that people, and my wife would be the first one to tell you the same thing. Hey, you got to really make sure. And she'll
Mm-hmm.
always tell me, well, I was going out with doctors and I was going out with lawyers and, business executives. I said, yeah.
Yeah.
And I married you. I said, yes, you married me because I was a lowly teacher because I was just a hot steaming looking deal. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Great bod, smart and funny, right?
Yeah.
She goes, no, 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 no. Now forget all that. She goes, I knew you had a secure job and you
Yeah.
had a pension, right? So they'll
Mm-hmm.
go, and of course, she was really jabbing me. I mean, that she was, kind of, it was partly teasing, but also it was
Yeah.
partly true. Yes,
Yeah.
I had a steady job, and I was going to get a pension if I lived long enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, I think that what happens is when people decide they're going to commit to each other, um, you have to start to think in practical terms. And most people don't want to.
No, I mean, certainly I didn't think in practical terms
Sure.
as well. So that's
Yeah.
definitely
And here's
something
the other thing.
important.
Now, we got married before the notion of a prenuptial agreement. Okay, all
Mm-hmm.
of a sudden, that came after we got married.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I'm a big fan of that in the sense that, it's almost a little too practical. And what I'm saying is, hey,
Yeah. Yeah.
if whatever you have, you have. Whatever I have, I have. And then whatever we agree to share, that's okay. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one part of it. The
Mm-hmm.
other thing about, though, forget about now the financials. I used to tell students in my classes when we talked about love and marriage, and you can remember you always talk because you're as an English teacher and you're doing literature, you're always talking about the relationships among characters, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so who loves who hates whom,
Mm-hmm.
who's homicidal, whatever.
Yeah.
So I was always say to them, you know what? Please don't tell me you're marrying for love. Okay? No, forget that. Tell me you're marrying for like. You know what?
Mm-hmm.
Because I may love my
Yes.
wife.
Yes. That's
Yeah,
huge to
right. Yeah.
like.
I may love my wife in the abstract, and she may
Mm-hmm.
love me in the abstract. But what makes a marriage work or not, or any relationship work or not, is like. Do I like
Yeah.
them? Do I like that
Huge.
person?
Huge.
Okay.
Do you like them? Do you like their core values?
Absolutely. So now, and by the way, there are lots of times, like yesterday afternoon, I just did not like my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And if I weren't a pacifist and I was a homicidal maniac,
Mm-hmm.
I would have been basically depositing her at the bottom of my pond in the backyard. Okay. But see, but I chose to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like an alcoholic in, Alcoholics Anonymous. It's one day with marriage, it's one day at a time. I didn't kill her yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't kill her today.
Well, we probably don't want to put that on the podcast.
No, no, that's fine. No, that's fine. No, no, no. People have to hear this because it's
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
And I probably won't kill her tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I see the difference there. I didn't yesterday. I
Yeah.
haven't yet today, but
Yeah.
tomorrow I probably won't.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming I still like her. I didn't
Yeah.
like her yesterday,
Yeah.
last night. I'm neutral today. Tomorrow I'll probably won't be more positive. You see what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's real. And I think that young people, what scares me is they live in this bubble of unreality and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
abstract notions of what
Yeah, and
love
probably
is.
everyone thinks that everything should always be beautiful and bliss and perfect. And when they come across problems and situations where couples disagree, they
Sure.
probably just break up and not continue trying when there's a disagreement, probably.
Yeah, yeah. And so I just think that that's something that people have to stop talking in these superlatives and generalities and abstractions. They got to get real,
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
real. Which
And do
brings us to
you
another one.
guys do 50-50 in all of your like bills and mortgages,
Well,
all that
the
stuff?
money goes into the pot,
Mm-hmm.
and then the bills are paid, and whatever's left over, goes into savings or investments or things like that. I mean, so
Mm-hmm.
it's really a matter of, for example, given my pension and everything else, I'm putting in more per month than she is, but
Mm-hmm.
that's okay, as all
Yeah.
the bills get paid and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's how that works.
Yeah. You know what? I got really upset when I was let go of my job of 14 years. And I was like, you know what? If I had a job where was working for a pension,
Sure,
I could have been, done my 20 years or whatever amount of years it's supposed to be and then gotten a pension.
sure.
Like, I wish I realized it sooner that I should have taken something like that instead.
Yeah, but see, here's the other thing, Linda, and this is where I think I told the story of one of the other podcasts about a former student of mine who had a tenured, very secure position,
Hmm.
had been working around a
Yeah.
decade, right?
Yeah.
And she chose to just leave it all behind her, take
Hmm.
the risk, got a PhD, eventually, luckily, got a job in the university. And by the way, to get a tenured position in the university is a lot harder than getting a tenured position as, let's say, a high school teacher. Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
You have to publish for the colleges. You got to publish stuff.
Oh, it's kind of like a doctorate, right?
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, you got a lot of politicking in there. In schools, it's strictly, it used to be 3 years. I think some states have made it longer, but it was 3 years of doing the job and
Yeah.
doing the job with good reviews and observations and things like that. And if you didn't do something really stupid or really illegal or immoral, they
Hmm.
would probably grant you tenure. Okay, and
Hmm.
that tenure would be for life.
And
Okay.
we get more money, more pension.
No, well, you'd get with each passing year, the way contracts for teachers are, and most contracts are structured. There's usually some kind of an increase uh, agreed upon by the bargaining units, by the teachers, the administrators, and the school board. What percentage a year they're going to give you every year going forward. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, uh, what's interesting about that is if you're working in a corporation where you have no union
Hmm.
and you were really working at the behest of the corporate, administrators, you may not have a pension. So therefore, it's incumbent upon you to get a 401k. And by the
Yeah.
way, I had mentioned in the other podcast about IRAs and stuff. I didn't use the terminology 403b. Teachers, because they're working in a non-profit kind of a institution, it's a 403b.
Oh, okay.
People who work in corporations and things.
It's IRA, right?
The four, well,
401k.
for a
401k.
401k,
Hmm.
my IRA is really technically a 403b kind of an account.
Okay.
Yeah. So young people don't think about that. And the days of going into a lifetime with the same institution is pretty much in the modern generation not really happening anymore. They were saying now, the last few things I read say that most young people, after they graduate college, they'll have anywhere from 7 to 9 or maybe more jobs, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
If they settle down at all. Now,
Yeah.
me, I mean, come on, I had all these part-time jobs, trying to make
Hmm.
paying for, this, that, and the other thing. But when I finally got my teaching job, that was it for me. Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because uh, I was supposed to be a lawyer, as I've told you many times. I
Hmm.
chose time over money. Okay.
Hmm.
I said, you know what? I could probably make way more money. Like some of my friends with lawyers already, they were making a lot of money. Okay.
Hmm.
And living large. But I chose time over money because you know what?
Yeah.
I knew I could find a way to make more money
Yeah.
through investments, real estate, whatever.
Uh-huh.
Okay. But I couldn't make more time. That we all
Exactly.
get X amount of minutes on this planet, and if
Hmm.
they get done, they are done. So I said, you know what? I have other fish to fry. I didn't care about having lots of money. Some people, I don't know, they need gobs and gobs of money. Oh, I want a better car. I want a more expensive car. I want a bigger, more expensive boat. And I'm thinking,
Hmm.
well,
Hmm.
you know what? If I won the lottery, like I used to when I had my boat and my horse and all this other stuff. If I had won the lottery, billions of dollars. Well, I already had a boat. What would that mean to me? Well, I could get a bigger boat, more expensive boat. It would cost
Hmm.
me more money but I'd have the money. I could
Hmm.
get a couple of more horses.
Hmm.
I could get if I was driving a Volkswagen, I could get a Lamborghini, things like that. So
Yeah.
it's a matter of you can have all that stuff. The
Hmm.
issue would be you would say, well, it's more expensive and presumably higher quality, whatever. But my needs as a young man were I wanted to be, and this is what this podcast should be about, is happiness. I
Yes.
wanted to be happy.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I would have been probably okay as a lawyer, but I
Hmm.
probably would have been miserable.
Hmm.
Okay. I had an older mentor, a woman. okay, and she was a multi-millionaire. She was bloated, okay,
Mhm.
and I was tight, really tight with her, and she had two sons close to my age,
Mhm.
but she enjoyed talking to me because I was reading the same books that she was, and she couldn't believe it. At my age, I was reading the same stuff. And we were talking about something. I was talking about, yeah, I'm taking my degree in English, and I'm gonna probably go to law school. And she told me outright, she goes, Billy, don't do it. She goes,
Mm.
and here are the words, I never forgot it.
Wow.
And remember, she had known me for already a couple of years by then. She goes, you're way too nice to be a lawyer. I went,
Oh,
really?
yeah.
Oh, she goes, oh no. She goes, no, you're an old soul and you're a good person, and
Yeah,
really,
like you might lose that niceness and that
yeah,
like
because
humanity and all of it.
yeah, yeah. And look, I know some lawyers who are pretty nice guys, good people, nice. But you know what? In order to do certain kinds of negotiations, in order to deal with certain kinds of problems for people, depending on what kind of law you're in, you pretty much sometimes have to be, you know, difficult.
Yeah, yeah. It
So
can be a
I,
little cutthroat sometimes too.
yeah. So what happened was, again, I wound up teaching school to make money to go to law school, to keep surfing another couple of summers, and to avoid the draft in Vietnam at the time.
Hmm.
I never knew I was going to love it so much. Okay. Now,
Hmm.
so let's go back to the happiness thing.
Yes.
Um, I'm, I, I was, I kind of always believed that people, especially young people, should, that was supposed to be the goal, the pursuit of happiness.
Yes.
And when
And
you were,
that's been my main like focus throughout my whole life is to find happiness.
yeah, and again, I read a lot of, I remember I minored into philosophy and theology, and the
Mhm.
philosophers always talked about that, like Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, that really the purpose of seeking truth and the wisdom that you might get from it was part of being happy. Okay, so I think it was Aristotle. I think it was Aristotle who
Mhm.
talked about that if a human being was going to be happy, that human being had to live to a purpose. Okay,
Mhm. Mhm.
and the example he gave was, I actually the example I got, it's like human beings have a mind, have an intelligence, and so that in order to be happy, they had to honor that mind, that
Mhm.
intellect, and
Mhm.
develop it, and make themselves smarter and smarter, and ultimately, if that goal of getting smarter would also lead to the happiness, because we would be, as intelligent beings, we would be living according to our purpose. Okay,
Mhm.
and so I used to tell students, yeah, like, no, it's, you guys have pens, right, at your desk. Yeah. Well, if I took that pen and I didn't use it to write, but I used it as a swizzle stick to mix my scotch and water, okay, Aristotle would say that pen would be an unhappy pen because it wasn't being used for its purpose.
Yeah,
Okay.
the purpose. Yes.
Yeah. So now, I kind of said it early on, if they're really, living my life and experiencing great, great, ecstatic, fun
Hmm.
surfing and
Yeah,
riding
you
horses.
do whatever gave you joy.
Yes, and that's a tough one, because it's tough because we're living in a capitalist society. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
what I used to tell students, and I think I mentioned this in another podcast, but I used to tell students and their parents, you know, if they really heard me, they would have been outraged. But I would say to them, look, I'm not here educate you so you can get a better job.
Hmm.
Okay?
Hmm.
I might help you. I might help you write better and
Hmm.
speak better. And when you wrote, reports for your job, you'd maybe get, and I know I had students that sent me letters when they became engineers or something else. And they said, oh my God, I did this report. My boss loved it. He gave me a raise. He gave me he raised me up a couple of more levels,
Hmm.
okay, but that's not what I'm doing here. What I'm doing here is I'm trying to give you the keys to the kingdom of being happier,
Hmm.
and you're going to be happy by being your most authentic self.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
and I'm not here to help you get a better job,
Yeah.
because that's not what life should be about. Okay.
Yeah, and that was like the contradiction of my pursuit of happiness because I always was obtaining that immigrant family, capitalist, money,
Yep.
prestige,
Yep.
honor.
Right.
Like even me who I didn't fully understand all of it until, I hit 40, you know?
Wow. Wow.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll tell you, but I learned it early on, and I'll tell you again. This goes back to you can't help but absorb the lesson. You can't help but learn it. When you're spending, as I did, almost all of my spare time
Mm-hmm.
at the beach,
Mm-hmm.
surfing, lying in the sun,
Mm-hmm.
chasing girls and having just a great, great time,
Yeah.
I'm thinking, who wants to work?
No, I
Who wants
mean,
to
yeah, like
work?
you were exposed, and nature is like a beautiful lesson on its
Yeah,
own, also.
because you know what that was. I'm really excited to you. I was a bipedal mammal living
Like
in
people met.
a mammal living the in nature.
Yeah.
I'm living. Lying in the warm. In fact, I never used to use it, but I used to lie in the warm sand and get the sun, and
Mm,
I'd go off and I'd surf and
yeah. Yeah.
I'd feel the cool salt water on my skin, and then of course I'd go home in the afternoon and
I
I'd
mean,
watch.
surfers are gurus in themselves.
Yeah, really. And then, but you start to learn that I
Yeah.
was happiest when I was in the bosom of nature, if you will,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
bosom of the ocean, or when I was on my horse's back in the bosom of the woods and the fields
Yeah.
I was riding through.
Exactly. Mother
And,
Nature is the best teacher.
yeah, and so I had to have a job
Yeah. To
so I
be
could.
able to enjoy those
Well,
things.
yeah, but also to eat, pay my
Yeah,
mortgage.
basics.
But when I was in teaching kids, I was trying to explain to them, hey, look. I
Mm-hmm.
know that when people say, "Well, you got to get a good grade, you have to get good grades so you can go to a good college and get a great
Yeah,
job."
because that's what our parents are feeding
Of
us.
course, and that's what parents want. Now, you want the truth? If I had had children, I said this once to my wife when we
Yeah.
first married. If I had had children,
Mm-hmm.
I would rather have a son who was a happy street sweeper than an unhappy attorney or
Mm-hmm.
an unhappy doctor. I'd rather, he drove a truck and was happy than have some white collar big ticket job if he was
Mm-hmm.
going to be miserable and neurotic and need therapy and take up drugs and alcohol,
Yeah.
as a lot of
Yeah.
people do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like I always tell the story, I never drank, I never
Mm-hmm.
smoked when I was a young man because I said it's not good for my body. I need to have good lungs for surfing, so wouldn't smoke. I didn't drink because I never had that thing. Okay, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't take drugs. I think when marijuana came out, I tried it a couple of times, but my friends would laugh at me because I didn't inhale, and I'd start to
Cough.
choke and cough and gasp. They would just laugh at me. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I didn't do it.
Well,
I
you were
think
high on life. You didn't need all of those
And
substances.
yes, I'm glad you said that, Linda. Yes, I was exact, and that was some of the things people would say in the '60s. Well, I don't need to do those things. I'm high on life, and I
Now,
was high
high
on
on
life.
life.
Yeah, yeah. So now, the only thing is, I didn't start to drink seriously, and
Mm-hmm.
I tell this to
Until you
everybody.
got older.
Well, no, specifically, I didn't start to drink seriously until I met my wife and her children and the rest of her family.
Oh, see, when you got older. When you got
Well, I'm
older.
32. I just didn't start drinking
Oh,
seriously until I
okay.
was in my 30s, really.
Uh-huh.
So, and by the way, when I say drink seriously, even now, I'm in
Mm-hmm.
retirement. I can drink anytime I want, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever I want. I have a two-drink maximum. Whatever it is, I never have more
Yeah,
than two.
like I don't like a lot of alcohol. If I'm gonna drink, it's probably only just a little bit, unless it's at a party, and then like
Yeah, yeah. But even
that.
at a party, in fact, at a party, I tend to drink less because I
Oh.
also think that at a party, I need to be sharper because of the conversations going on. When
Mm-hmm.
I'm home as a
Mm-hmm.
retiree,
Yeah.
I got into the habit of when the mail used to come around, I don't know, 3:30, 4.
Yeah.
I'd pour myself something on the rocks and I'd
Yeah.
open up my mail and, I kind of, relax, you know, for the rest of the evening and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think I could count on one hand how many times I've been really, really drunk or drunk to
Mm-hmm.
the point where I got sick. Okay.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's very, very, very rare.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of that because it means so, like, see, it's another thing. Some people, in a previous podcast, I said I'm not an addictive person. I'm an obsessive person, and
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what I meant. Where some people start to drink and they go, "Oh my God, I love this," and they get really become alcoholics.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't have that.
Yeah, because they're chasing that high and that,
Yeah, it
the
works for
feeling
me.
of it. But yours was from life and, being out in Mother Nature and
Yeah,
being great at those things.
but I mean, here's the thing. It's a very startling notion for parents to come to grips with the fact that their children's happiness should be more important than their children's occupation, for example.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
equate, because they equate, and it's understandable, they equate
Money
money,
with happiness.
productivity, and
Yeah.
stuff like that with, oh, you're going to be happy if you have all
Yeah.
this money. No, in
Yeah.
fact, I could argue that the
Yeah.
money and the objects you buy with that money could make that makes you miserable, okay,
Yeah.
and or makes you more frustrated. For example, you buy a car. Well, guess what? Okay, fine. That's, oh, I have this really spiffy, great looking car. It's really expensive. Okay, great. Well, meanwhile, you got to maintain it. You got to
Hmm.
get it new tires. You got
Hmm.
to put gas in it. You got to make sure there's oil change. There's also, you got responsibilities and chores with that.
Yeah.
I gotta, you like boats. I mean, boats. My horse was less expensive than having
Then
my horse. Actually, I mean, my horse was less expensive than my boat was. My boat was
because your
more.
boat's in water and
Well,
water's
see,
going to
water.
deteriorate
I
it.
had, yeah, I had to have summer and winter storage. I had to, you
Yeah.
know, I had to had all kinds of engine maintenance, things like that. My horse,
So
I
surfing and horse was cheaper.
yeah, the horse was definitely cheaper,
Hmm.
and in a way more fun, and also in way more relaxing. I can't explain to you what it right now. So well, I guess the whole idea of, and this is where about educating kids, to educate them to be
Yeah.
free thinking,
Yeah.
and to not overly see. That's another thing in schools. I'm really anti-school,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Now remember, I was a teacher for 32 years
Yeah.
in high
Well, what
school.
about college? Are you anti-college too?
College is so different,
Hmm.
especially at the university level. And when I was at, let me explain why I'm against schools for a lot of reasons. They are, again, like we're talking about nature, they're not natural. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
they're not now. Here you have young people,
Hmm.
exuberant, easily, if they're easily excitable in a positive way, young people,
Yeah.
and you're tying them down for 45 minutes
Yeah.
a class to a desk. They're not supposed to get up. They
Yep.
have to ask your permission to take a pee.
Yep.
Okay, and of course, they should be out playing something. They should be out learning something
Hmm.
and doing something and
Hmm.
developing a skill or developing a hobby that they could eventually turn into an occupation if they wanted
Yeah.
to. No, we're corralling them. And one of the reasons why I got along right with certain students, I think, especially some of the male students, especially some of the black male students, was I was more as kinetic as they were. By kinetic, I mean I wanted to move. I didn't want to be tied behind my desk. In fact, if you remember, I never sat behind my desk.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
always standing up, walking around, jumping
Yeah.
around, doing some
Which is
strange
good
stuff.
because it was your class was never boring, and I don't think anybody ever fell asleep in your
No,
class.
yeah, I wouldn't allow it.
Yeah.
I'd kick their desk. I do something. But I mean, my point was, it's not natural for kids to be in school that long
Hmm.
in that many classes, especially at the high schools and junior high schools. They're not. I mean, the elementary schools, I think there's more quote sense
Yeah.
of play unquote. Okay,
Exactly.
but,
Yeah.
but for older kids, man, forget about
It's
it.
not
That's
fun.
ridiculous. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
in the ancient times, like the philosophers and the
Hmm.
teachers, they were what they were called pedagogues, really.
Hmm.
And what that word really, agogos means leader and ped means by foot. They would take the young, usually boys, young men, and they'd walk around the countryside and they'd observe this and observe that, and they'd philosophize about this and they philosophize that, and it was real, and it was
Hmm.
um,
Why was it just boys?
well, because in those days, a girl, for example, especially in the ancient Greeks, their marriages were strictly to have baby machines.
I
Okay,
know. I mean,
yeah,
through
yeah,
history, it's
because
always been like this, right?
yeah, because what they had now, they had a whole level of what they call courtesans.
Hmm.
Okay, there were women who were educated and were allowed to hang out with men,
Hmm.
and they were there for actually not just sex but conversation as well.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
they were a special type of female, but
Okay.
most of the times these men and these their wives were very young and they were just popping out kids.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying to you is that it's just an unnatural. And then the other part, which I had alluded to a couple of times before, is this whole notion of keeping kids like a 14-year-old as a freshman and a 16-year-old as a junior, okay?
Hmm.
As
Hmm.
if somehow that at those ages they can only learn certain things.
Yeah. Yeah.
What you're
Yeah.
really doing is you are restraining them from g- developing their ideas, their brains,
Hmm.
their potential. You're restraining them for in a very artificial way. Like I
Yeah.
said before,
Yeah.
I've known 16-year-olds that could have been sophomores or juniors in college.
Yeah.
I've had college kids really. They should never left ninth grade. I mean, some of them, you know. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
the fact is that it's all this artificial. It's about power. It's about discipline. It's
And really you're
oh,
only teaching them what the books, like it's not like completely open to like everything. It's just
sure.
here's what we only want you to learn.
Here's something that they don't really tell you in college, or in high school. I realized it when I was at the university. Wh- Forget it. Some professors can be really excellent.
Hmm.
Some of them, just like high school teachers, are barely competent as
Yeah.
instructors, as
Yeah.
speakers, as whatever. But what you were really paying for, okay, what you were really paying for, I thought, especially in my major as English, every
Hmm.
class I took, the professor would give us the required readings for that course, and then a fairly lengthy bibliography. So let's assume the following.
Hmm.
I had a kid, and I said, you know what? I don't want them going to school, public school, private school. I'm going to educate that kid myself because I can. I'm
Yep.
a licensed teacher, right?
Yep.
And in fact, you were at the house. Okay, I showed you my library downstairs.
Hmm.
I think I showed you my study upstairs. It's low. I have hundreds and hundreds of books here
Yeah.
on every possible
Yeah.
area of this. Really. So what I would do is I would say, okay, well, here were the required readings I had in philosophy, required readings I had in theology, English, math, whatever, and I would have the bibliographies and say, okay, son, you're going to start with the required readings, and then when you're, let's say, taking a course in philosophy, which if you finish reading the dialogues of Plato or whatever, then you can move to this book that's on the bibliography, but not on the required readings. All
Hmm.
right? So on and so forth. And that's how I would have wanted to educate my son. And when we weren't doing educational things,
Hmm.
I'd be dragging his butt to the beach to go surfing. I'd
Yeah.
be dragging his butt to the barn to go horseback riding and learning all
Hmm.
kinds of stuff. I
Yeah.
would be dragging him to the boat to go fishing. And my thing would be, remember, you can improve your mind and still live your life, okay?
Hmm.
And you're going to be way happier because of it.
Yeah.
See, but that's a problem in a culture like ours. It's all about everything's restrained,
Yeah.
controlled, whatever. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's really it's difficult because I mean, like I said, I'm only literally free from that matrix of things since 40. So
yeah.
I am literally just open. I'm only like technically 6 years old right now because I'm 46. So
That's
I'm only six
that's
years
funny.
old
Yeah,
and having my eyes open to the world
sure.
and realizing that all the things that I've been chasing did not make me happy.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too, I'm also talking about implicitly a certain amount of freedom for young people.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with this is a lot adults and teachers will say, "Oh, well, wait, we can't have these kids, free to do anything they want." Actually, no, that's not what it means. Freedom is not license. It doesn't just if you're free, it doesn't mean you can do anything you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
there
Hmm.
are there are there are boundaries. I used to always tell my students in high school, with horses, for example, people think that you have to have a lot of property to have horses, which
Hmm.
which a horse would tell you, no, you really don't. Okay, so
Hmm.
let's say you had a corral. Let's say it's I don't know how many foot, but even with their stalls. So most horses are stabled in what they call box stalls. They're generally 12 feet by 12 feet.
Hmm.
Okay?
Hmm.
So here's what happens. A horse in the wild, the only time they really run and they travel a lot is to find food and or water. Okay?
Hmm.
If they had all of their food and all their water in one spot, that's where they would stay. They said, well,
Hmm.
I got food here. I got water
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
I've got shelter here. So
Yeah.
when they're in their box stall, okay, I remember one corner, my horse would have his oats and grain stuff.
So it's
And
kind of like a dog too. Like if they
yeah,
have everything with you, they can stay there and
yeah.
then
And then in
just
another other corner, he'd have his bunch of hay,
yeah.
okay? And then in another corner, he'd have his water.
Hmm.
And then in the other corner, usually opposite his grain bowl, he put all his poop.
So he
But
poops
what
in like one area.
Yeah, well, I was lucky. My horse was known as an easy keeper.
Mhm.
Easy keepers were such horses where they didn't get dirty a lot.
Oh,
Like if he was in a stall, like what the horses will do, they want to scratch their back, so they'll roll over on their backs, and there's enough room for them to do that and then get back up on their feet. Well, my horse used to put all of his poop in one spot and his or urine in one spot. But what happened would be, but some horses who weren't easy keepers, they'd poop all over the stall, and
oh,
then when they rolled, they were rolling in their own poop. And
oh,
then
really?
when you cleaned them, it was like, oh, you got to really clean them, you gotta
Oh,
wash them down. It was hard.
yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
was an easy keeper. Okay,
So he
so
was really good.
yeah, but my point about that was horses in a box stall would be a problem if you didn't take them out if you didn't give them a job, didn't give them a purpose. Okay,
Yes,
so if I'm saying to
a
you, Mike,
purpose. Yep,
your purpose in life is to be as authentic as you can be, and they're
yep,
going to approach that a certain way. Well,
yep.
horses need a purpose. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
they once you train them for the work you want them to do,
Mm-hmm.
man, they'll do it. They love doing it. And if you
Yeah.
don't do it,
Mm-hmm.
here's what happens if you don't do it. Okay? What happens after a while, let's say the weather's really bad and whatever, or you don't feel like riding or
Mm-hmm.
they get what we used to call it in slang, barn ratty. Okay?
Oh,
They were like rats. They would ratty. They'd be in their stall and they wouldn't want to leave it. Okay? Because hey, they got food, they got water, they got shelter. In
mm-hmm.
fact, I remember, and this is true for all horses, uh, when I had my riding accident, my horse got loose.
Mm-hmm.
It was a couple of miles away from the barn, and I knew what he was going to do. He was
Yeah,
going to run when he ran, he wasn't going to just run any place he wanted to. He was going
yeah.
to run back home. He knew where the stall was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he ran right back to that stall. And when they got me into a car, waiting for the ambulance to get me to the hospital, okay? But no, there wasn't an ambulance. They got me to a car. They brought me to the barn first. I wanted to make sure my horse was okay. Then I said, okay, take me to the hospital. And he was there. And they put him, they, took off all his saddle and bridle and put him in the. In fact, he was running with another horse. So I said, let me ask you a question. Did he beat the other horse back to the barn or not? And he said, oh, no, yeah, he was way ahead of him. I said, great, because I remember I had a racehorse. I said, oh,
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted him to win on the way back, right? But this is the thing, this whole notion of freedom, uh, and I would say like students were free in my classroom i- up to a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
They could speak their minds, but they couldn't use bad language.
Yeah.
They could speak their minds, but they couldn't be mean and rude to any other people. Certainly me, that'd be respectful.
Mm-hmm.
But they felt that okay, if I'm within those boundaries, I
Yeah.
am free to be the person I feel I need
Yep.
and want to be. I'm free to speak how about my mind. They were free to disagree with me. You see,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and again, this goes back to equality. Uh, you think back. I Yes, you guys had to call me Mr. Schiavo or Captain Willy, and I always called you by your last names. And what was the
Mm-hmm.
rule? If
Mm-hmm.
and when I did that the first day of class, okay, kids would moan because I'm not going to call you Linda. I'm going to call you Miss Chung. Ooh, they thought it was. They would moan about it because they thought, I guess somehow that, I don't know what they thought. All I know
Maybe
is,
I don't know. Maybe they were insulted. They're like, "What? You're
well,
gonna call
no,
me
I
by
think
my
I
last?"
think they thought somehow that it was a bad thing or
Yeah.
wasn't a friendly thing, and I said, no, no, you don't understand.
Yeah.
Under the protocols of etiquette,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm calling you Miss or Mister, and you're calling me Mister, at that level, we are equal. Okay, we're equal.
Yeah,
Uh,
which is something no teacher would tell a student,
yeah, but I
right?
want to explain it to myself. I told you this before, probably way
Yeah.
back. I said, hey, look, yeah, I'm older than you. Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
better educated than you. I hope I have more money than you do. And by the way, I'm certainly better. I'm certainly better looking than you guys are. Okay. So I said, but forgetting about all that, when we are addressing each other, Miss Chung or Mr. Jones or whatever, we are basically we're equal. And so, in that respect, is what's important. Okay,
Mhm.
that's the real
Yeah,
crux of
I
it.
mean that's huge that you gave them that respect from day one.
Now,
So it opens that door.
Yeah, and now I used to give them. I gave all my college students basic my basic lesson plan for that first day, and I
Hmm.
talked about the three P's of productivity and punctuality. Yeah, punctuality, productivity, and politeness. Right.
Hmm.
That's the most important, being politeness. What happened in my years of teaching, and you know this because centralized could be a very difficult school. There was violence there. There were brawls. There were right. I I could count again on one hand problems I had with students who were disrespectful or really, really difficult
Hmm.
because they were saying to themselves, they knew it instinctively. No other teacher speaks to me this way. No other
Hmm.
teacher gives me the respect of calling me by my last name, Mr. So and so or Miss So and so.
Yeah.
They were being treated like adults. They were being treated not only like adults, but equal adults.
Yeah.
That's a rarity in a lot of schools.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Super rare.
Yeah.
Super rare. I mean, I can only, I have a handful of teachers that respected me enough to like talk to me in a certain way and also to, respect me and my abilities to want to help me,
And
So,
by the way, I don't want to suggest that the teachers who didn't do what I did were didn't like the kids or didn't respect the kids. That's not what I'm saying. I had a philosophy. Okay, I had a methodology,
mhm,
and lots of teachers have different ones than I had. But that was my particular methodology of philosophy, based upon those notions of um, I want free children. I don't want unfree children who are being disciplined, overly disciplined, being punished. For example, um, I would never have laid a hand on my kids. Okay.
mhm, mhm.
Just like I never abused my horse or my
Yeah.
dogs.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you don't have to do that. People who know about horses and really care about horses, they don't hurt them. They
Yeah.
don't
You're
abuse
not beating them.
them.
Yeah.
You're trying to train them, and there
Yeah.
are ways to do it, and you can do it with love. You don't have to do it with brutality and meanness.
Yeah, and
Okay.
if you saw someone who was abusing their animal, you would be upset. You'd be like, "Well, you
Well,
shouldn't be treating your horse like that."
Captain Willie always has these stories, right?
Yeah.
Well,
No, you and
I
your
have a story.
story.
I had a story. This is a true one. I had a
Mhm.
story at the barn about the barn, and I was working around my horse. I was, currying him and brushing him down and stuff like that. And there
Yeah.
was another guy who was a real total. Basically, he was a criminal. He wound up in jail anyway. But he was starting to abuse his horse. The horse was all on a chain, and he was starting to beat him. Well, I grabbed a pitchfork, okay, and I was gonna put it right through his chest, okay.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
was crazed. I was
Yeah.
crazy. I didn't want that poor horse. I just went nuts. Thank God, to one guy and a woman, both horse owners, they grabbed me
Oh,
and
really?
got me. Yeah, they grabbed me because I would have killed that scumbag. Pardon my French.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, like that's the same as like a husband or a wife beating their wife
Yeah.
and their kids.
So at any rate, the barn manager got wind of the whole scene, and he kind of settled. He straightened that out. Again, he straightened the guy out, and I think he made him leave the barn or something. He's like, get yourself out of here, and get your horse out of here. And if you can't handle this horse, you better sell it to somebody who'll take care of it. But I
Hmm.
mean, that's one of the few times I got so incensed that I really kind of lost it. I really
Yeah.
did lose it.
Yeah.
But I think that because it's not necessary. It's not
Yeah.
necessary to treat
Yeah.
children that way. I think I told you the story in a previous podcast once upon a time about how don't make me play teacher. Don't make me punish you. Okay?
Hmm.
I don't want to punish you. I have
Yeah.
every authority
Yeah.
from the state and from the school district to say I can give you detention.
Hmm.
I can do certain kinds of things to you to make your life
Yeah. Yeah.
miserable.
Mhm.
Don't make me do that. I don't want to
Yeah.
do that. Okay? Let's work this out. And students were usually accommodating.
Yeah, I know it's similar to sometimes I do that to my kids because I don't like to be the yelling and screaming and doing all this stuff. But sometimes when I'm fed up, I'm like, listen, I just give them that look. I'm like, listen, I don't want to yell at you or like get crazy.
I want
So
to
you need to get your shit together,
But here's the
basically.
thing, Linda. Here's the thing. When you treat young people properly, okay, when you treat them properly and
Hmm.
respectfully, okay, generally, unless they're really emotionally disturbed or mentally disturbed. I I know people in my family who were emotionally disturbed. Not actually not my side, but my my wife's side. Okay,
Hmm.
um, that what happens is they respond to a certain kind of conversation. Now,
Hmm.
the most devastating thing my father ever could have told me, ever,
Hmm.
and it's true for a lot of people, and I used to do it with the students. Okay, I'm trying to remember. I don't think he ever did. Maybe once. He said, "You know what, pal? I'm really disappointed in you."
And that probably killed you.
It destroyed me.
Yeah,
It
that's what I
destroyed me.
mean. It probably
I was
killed you. You're like,
devastated.
oh, what?
And I'll tell you why. My father, I told you, was the gentlest, funniest soul. I mean, he was gentle, okay, and he
Hmm.
loved me, and he loved me to the max. I mean, I never had any doubt
Hmm.
about how he
Yeah,
felt about
yeah.
me, right? So for me to disappoint him was like,
Hmm.
oh my God, what did I do that was so terrible? And
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what I did that was so terrible.
You don't remember?
Yeah, you know what? I put it in my back of my mind. I didn't want to. I didn't want to remember it actually. But and I would do that with students. Some of my students that I just, especially when they were good, when they were, when they were normally really very nice people,
Hmm.
and but if they did something really, but let's say they got into a fight and they started it. Okay, I remember I
Oh,
did that to a girl.
yeah,
I
yeah.
had a girl, and uh, she got into this fight with another girl,
Hmm.
and in the process of breaking it up, she wound up kicking my leg. Okay.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
It was broken up, and I liked her a lot, and she liked me, and I got her alone. I said, you know what? First of all, you you don't need to solve these issues with violence. But you know
Yeah.
what really offended me? And you what? I
You
said,
kicked
well,
me.
I
No.
no, I told you to let go to the girl. I told you to stop, and what happens? You wound up kicking me in the leg, and it hurt. Now, she didn't kick me in the leg on purpose, okay? It was just in the process of fighting and wrestling with this girl. She
Mhm.
happened to kick me. I
Yeah.
said, and this is the problem. I said, you didn't care that I was trying to stop the fight. You didn't care that I would probably have been on your side. You didn't care, and you hurt me in the process of my trying to do the right thing. And
Yeah.
then I said, I'm really disappointed in you.
Uh-oh.
And she
That's those
started,
words.
yeah, she started to cry. I
Yeah.
said, well, hey, look, don't cry. You decided to have a fight. You know
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
You know how I feel about violence.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, stop that. Are you kidding
Yeah.
me?
Like, don't cry. This
Yeah,
is what
yeah,
it is.
yeah. And by the way, don't I had another there was another story I could tell you about a girl fighting, and I wound up having to slam her against the wall because she was hitting. I didn't do it on purpose, really. Okay, but there was she was in a part of the hallway where I grabbed her, got her, and she was attacking a very sweet girl who I knew had a cardiac problem. Okay,
Oh.
yeah, because they give us lists in the beginning of the school year that we get lists from the nurse's office of
Oh, okay.
which kids
Certain
have what.
students have issues.
Yeah, because yeah, you have to know that if you have a kid who's got really bad grand mal seizures, you got to be ready for that. If
Okay.
whatever. So I took the girl. I got her off the girl, and I took her by the shoulders, and I threw her away from her, and she hit the wall. Her shoulder hit the wall, and she said. So anyway, the fight was over, and then she said to me, because she was a real little bastard, quite frankly. She was always in trouble, and I think she was a gang girl. I said, well, you could have really hurt me, or you hurt me. And I said, well, excuse me. What makes you think when you start a fight, which she did, that you're not the one who's going to be the loser and you're
Hmm.
not the one who's going to get hurt?
Yeah.
Did you ever think about that?
Yeah.
Okay. And so it's those kinds of things which, I'm thinking this is a learning thing for her. You want to
Mhm.
start a fight? Guess what? You could get hurt. You could get killed. Just because you're the aggressor doesn't mean you're gonna win. You see?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's stuff like that where, going back to the notion that freedom isn't license, there are
There's still
limits.
boundaries. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Boundaries.
still boundaries. Okay, but
Boundaries.
but then that note with that notion involved, then I think more schools have to give more young people more
Freedom.
freedom for
More
certain
freedom.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. To explore, outside of those boundaries. Because if you're stuck in that box constantly, it's not very
But here's what
creative.
this means, though. Going back to the original premise, this is
Mhm.
how young people can learn to be happy.
Yeah.
And this is like, you say, well, okay, uh, I get these freedoms,
Mm-hmm.
and I start to appreciate them. And when they feel that they're free to be who they want and need to be,
Yeah.
they're less neurotic, they're less violent.
Yeah.
Uh, they don't need therapy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't have to go to drugs and alcohol to kind of get that feeling of hatred or
Yeah.
frustration
Yeah,
going.
like my therapy has always been art. Like art
Yeah.
saved me. Like in my confined box in prison and life,
Right.
art was always my savior. And now I'm finally getting back to it more, that now that I started my Airbnb, because now that it's
Right.
self-sustaining me to
Right.
be able to do my art and to be
Sure.
happy
Sure.
and do more things that are peaceful to me, which is, my kids, being able to be there for my
Yeah.
kids and,
Sure.
turn my concrete backyard into hopefully a nice garden. Because right now it's like all concrete and the salt like ruined it. So now it's like
Sure.
crumbling
Sure.
up. So
Sure.
I gotta send you a picture, then maybe you can give me your gardening advice.
Oh, please, please. But I mean, I will say this. I just think that um, the good news for me as it going into teaching, and I didn't realize it till I was into it for a while, is and it's the great gift that my father gave me, and I didn't realize it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned how to treat young people the way my father treated me. And he treated me
Mm.
that way because he was an orphan, I think I told you, and he
Mm-hmm.
didn't learn bad habits from his parents. He
Yeah.
didn't have mean parents, restrictive
Yeah.
parents.
Yeah.
He wasn't overly disciplined. He was a good
Yeah.
kid, good, and people realized at him in his life. And he just kind of naturally knew how to do the right thing. And he was a happy man. He wasn't neurotic. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he treated me with kid gloves. He did. He just, So I learned that you don't have to punish young people to get
Mm.
them to do what you'd like them to do.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And if you
Well,
treat
thank
them,
God. Well, thank God for him and how he treated you.
oh my God, oh really? Every day I see, like in my room, you saw I have pictures of him all over the place. Okay, so I think that uh, there are lessons to be learned here. I just we look. Here's another problem too. Um, when lots of people go to psychiatrists have to tell them because they are like they say, well, I'm unhappy, this is bothering me, and I
Mm-hmm.
can't do this in the society, and they think that they're the problem. And then most decent psychiatrists will say to them, no, you don't understand. You're not the problem here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The society is the problem, and you're
Mm-hmm.
having trouble. You know instinctively certain things are wrong and shouldn't be this way,
Mm-hmm.
but guess what? You're having trouble adapting to the brutality and
Yeah.
nastiness of the
Yeah.
society.
Yeah,
Okay?
there's a beautiful quote about a flower. If a flower's not growing, is it, do you blame it on the flower for not growing, or do you know, fix the soil and fix the light and fix the air that it's in and
Right.
all of that,
I
so.
mean, look, if you grow up in tough environments,
Hmm.
whether it's your family environment
Yeah.
or your school environment
Yeah.
or your neighborhood environment that's negative, okay?
Yep.
You're going to be a person with a lot of issues that have to be resolved, okay?
Yeah.
And you're
Example
going
of
to,
me.
yeah, well, I'm saying, but this is what happens. And then,
Yeah.
but then unless somebody tells you, or you get to a point where you realize, wait a second,
Hmm.
it isn't me,
Yeah.
it's the situation that I'm surrounded by,
Yep.
okay? Or the people I'm surrounded by. I used to tell, I can't
You have
remember.
to unlearn. You got to unlearn all those things that
Well,
that
for
would happen to
example,
you.
I knew a guy, and he had a terrible, terrible, half crazy wife. And I said to him once, you know what? It's tough for those of us who are boaters and sailors and things. But sometimes you have an anchor and it's stuck, okay? And if you can't get it unstuck.
You're gonna have
And
to throw it over.
well, no, here's what happens. Sometimes,
Cut it loose.
especially that it could basically sink your boat because you
Mhm.
can't unless you untie it,
You gotta, yeah, you
unless
gotta
you
cut
cut
it
it loose.
loose.
Yeah. And I said, this is what happens. There are certain people that are so
Hmm.
toxic.
Yeah,
They're like stuck anchors in the mud. You got to
yeah,
cut them loose.
yeah,
Otherwise, yeah, because there are certain things you cannot fix. There are certain
yeah,
people you cannot
yes,
fix.
yeah.
Now look at our
Either
society.
you cut it loose, or you might go down with them.
That's exactly right.
You
That's
know
my
what I
point.
mean?
So I think look at the culture we're in now. mean, now everyone, of course, this is after that horrible massacre in Texas with these 19 kids and two teachers. This is a fixable problem,
Totally, totally.
and they made it politically unfixable, but it's a
Yep,
fixable problem. So
yep.
now the issue is the following: this country, its citizens have to cut this political anchor loose before it kills this whole country. It's killing this country,
Yeah, yeah.
literally killing us,
It
and
is. It
and
is.
and metaphorically killing us.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to cut the anchor with this nonsense about the importance of the Second Amendment based on a bogus misinterpretation. And other countries have changed their rules, and now they don't have mass murders the way we have almost every day in this freaking country. Okay,
Yeah, yep.
so it doesn't allow people to be happy. Now people are fearful. Now people, and my job has always been first, I wanted to be happy personally, and
Mm-hmm.
then my job was, and we're going to end this conversation here, is I
Mm-hmm.
wanted my students to be as happy as I could show them they could be, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe as happy as I could make them in my classroom. You see,
Yeah, yeah.
that's something. That's
That is
something that,
beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's something that a lot of teachers don't get. You know.
It's beautiful. I mean, you're basically gifting them, the freedom to find their happiness and their purpose.
And here's the last thing, and the philosophers always taught me this in their books and in their words, is that the greatest joy and the greatest gift we give ourselves is when we try to help other people.
Yes.
You see?
That is so true. That is so true. And that's perfectly wraps up this podcast of like when I didn't really find my happiness in pursuing other things and like, from college to work to obtaining these goals, doing the checklist.
Right.
And really, I want to be able to help people and then do my purpose. And my purpose is art. And so art comes in all kinds of forms,
Sure.
So this is beautiful, this podcast, because I get to speak to people and have a communication and a connection
Uh,
and build a community. But it's also art because then I get to edit it, add photos, structure it a certain way, and then put it out. So it's also art. So it feeds that art in me and also builds that
yeah,
community.
because you do it with creativity and style. And
Yeah.
that's what art's all about.
Yeah.
Creativity and style, you know? Well,
Exactly. So
listen, it's always a pleasure.
yeah. And
Okay.
I love that we started with my one question that I didn't need today. So
You
did you
know,
realize? So did you realize that I didn't have an index card ready with a question today?
and I didn't have anything I really felt I wanted to talk about today either.
No, I really literally I brought my basket of questions and I was looking through it and I was trying to figure out what am I going to ask you. And as you're talking, trying to figure it out. And I was like, we really never really need a question to have these conversations, which is why it's so beautiful.
Yeah, really. Well, you know why? And we're two very talkative people.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and we like
But
talking to each other.
but as we end this, I just wanted to do a little recap of what you thought of my podcast with Jordan Turk.
Oh, I thought I told you. It was spectacular. I thought he was brilliant in turning the tables and said, "Let me interview you for a
Mm-hmm.
change."
Mm-hmm.
I thought you two guys, I learned thanks to him even more about you than I thought I knew.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I I mean, Jordan and I have become pretty tight over the years, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
and I just thought he did a wonderful job, and I think did a wonderful job of reacting to his questions, and also I have to salute your honesty. I do, I do. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I think that's very brave of you and very. It's actually productive for you too. You know,
Yes, it's very
so
productive. I mean, all of these conversations I've had with people where I'm being honest and open about my feelings and my experiences. Hopefully, me telling my story will help somebody else. Is
yeah,
my
and of
hope.
course I have all these stories to tell too, which I think are illustrative. They're examples of stuff that people things that you do sometimes that they don't think about, and how the things that did or are doing can really be helpful to them if they are a little introspective and
Yes,
reflective about
yes. Which we all need that. We all need
yeah,
that.
I think a lot of times people don't take the time to think about what they've done, who they are, who they've been, and also think about what they want to do and be going forward.
Yeah, and it's good to have people who will challenge you on your, thoughts, and then for you to be open enough to be introspective.
Sure, sure.
So that's why these are all beautiful, and I thank you so much. So really, I don't really need to be worried about questions when we have these Thursday chats anymore, because we will randomly just catch up, and
Oh,
then
for sure.
today's I love it because today's podcast was about happiness and purpose, and is exactly
And
my
also,
my quest.
the freedom, the freedom of young people to be who they need to be.
Yeah,
I'm very big on that. I think that uh, sometimes parents are way too tough on their children when they don't have to be.
yeah,
On that note, we're gonna
yes,
go. I'll
yes, I
see.
love it. Thank you so much, and it was great chatting with you.
Same here. You have a good weekend, and I'll see you next Thursday.
Okay, see you next Thursday.
Very good. Bye.
Bye
Bye
bye.
now.